Hey everybody, it's Brian with the Grounds Guys of Hendersonville with your first holiday light tip of 2024. This tip is great for everybody, but especially if you're new to the holiday light business. It's easy to fall into the trap of pricing and worrying about pricing, how to price, but I want to talk to you a little bit about roofline pricing. So when you're thinking about how to price roof lines, we always think of that in terms of linear feet. How many linear feet does a customer's property have? What are we going to price it at? That's how we derive a price for the customer. Because we think of it in linear feet, we always think about using 12-inch spaced socket wire. So that's where your bulbs are 12 inches apart. However, I've been installing holiday lights now for close to 10 years, and in that 10 years, I've never had a single customer ask me what spacing I'm using on the roof line. So when you look at material costs rising, labor costs rising, everything rising, I would urge you to consider moving away from 12-inch spacing on your socket wire and looking at 15-inch spacing. We moved over to 15-inch spacing for a couple of reasons, but the primary reason was, again, one, not ever have I ever had a customer ask me about the spacing, but the main reason for switching was the difference between 12-inch spacing and 15-inch spacing is basically 20%. So I'm saving 20% on materials associated with roofline lighting. 20% fewer bulbs. The socket wire has 20% fewer sockets. And so the spool of socket wire at 15-inch spacing is a little bit less money. And the labor associated with installing 15-inch spacing is a little bit less. Maybe not quite 20% less, but it is a little bit less because you're having to touch fewer sockets and fewer bulbs. So if you're stuck in the rut of thinking about linear feet, I would urge you to still price your roofline lighting by the linear foot, but take a look at using 15-inch spacing. A little bit more math on the front end to figure out pricing for a customer, but you'll save yourself that 20%. So that's my tip number one for the 2024 season. Take a look at 15-inch spacing socket wire if you haven't already. Well worth it. We've been using it now for four years maybe, and I think the math would bear itself out that it's saving us right close to 20%, and you could be too. So that's my tip for today. So with all that, thank you. Sign them up.